Today we're discussing political participation for a quick little mini lesson. Here are some voters. Half of eligible voters vote on election day, sometimes less. 40% of eligible voters vote in the midterm elections. We have one of the lowest voter turnouts of all of Western democracies. Is this comparison misleading? There are different factors, registered versus total population. It is difficult to measure. Many say they voted in surveys when they did not. Expansion of those who are eligible to vote decreased election reporting. Other countries have compulsory voting. Why don't we? Other forms of participation have increased, but has voter turnout actually declined? Patterns of voting behavior. We have education is the absolutely most important predictor of voting. The more education you have, the more likely you are to vote. Here we can see in this graph that a bachelor's or advanced degree is the highest percentage of voters. We also have age. The lowest is under 20. Of course, that would start at the age of 18 to 20, and then the highest is over 40 years old. The lowest under 20 is high in other types of civic participation, however, such as volunteering. Also, other factors is race, sex, religion, and closeness of race. The expansion of the right to vote. Is every U.S. citizen of voting age allowed to vote? The 15th Amendment says the right of citizens of the United States to vote shall not be abridged by the United States or by any state on account of race, color, or previous condition of servitude. We have a literacy test. We have had literacy tests, poll tax, grandfather clause, and white primary. The 19th Amendment also allowed women to vote. The 23rd Amendment gave voters in Washington, D.C. the right to vote in presidential elections. The 24th eliminated the poll tax. The 26th allowed 18-year-olds to vote. The Voting Rights Act of 1965 suspended literacy tests. It appointed federal examiners who could order registration of blacks in areas where fewer than 50% were registered. Imposition of criminal penalties for interfering with the right to vote. We have participation groups. Inactives is a type that avoid all type of participation in politics. We have activists that participate in all forms. Campaigners vote and participate in campaigns. Communalists join nonpartisan organizations. Parochial participants don't vote or community membership, but write officials. And then we have voting specialists. They only vote. They're usually older and less educated. Efforts to increase voting turnout. We have to decrease voter fraud. We have increased voter regulations. It has actually resulted in a lower turnout sometimes. We have vote early, vote often, and the Australian ballot. We have registration drives, early voting, same-day registration. Areas with high rate of non-English speakers must provide ballot in their language. Motor Voter Act, and easing the restrictions. In 1970, there's a federal law that has prohibited states from having residency requirements longer than 30 days for presidential elections.